I'm in the kitchen today. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna bake something. That's my thing. So lately we've been playing with what started out as an oatmeal cookie recipe, just very simple. When I first met Connie, and she was in the macrobiotics, there's kind of like no desserts. She had an oatmeal cookie recipe that was so basic. I think it might have had just three ingredients. It had rolled oats, raisins, and brown rice syrup. And the syrup held it together. And coming from where I was coming from when I knew her, which was like the kind of oversweet knockout desserts, that's what a dessert was to me. This was like nothing. But over time, our taste buds change, as we've said, as we change our diet, our bodies reacclimate to the taste. And I grew to really like them. So sometimes it's just nice to have a real simple, something like a cookie or a bar. It's that simple. So this has evolved from a very basic oatmeal cookie recipe to have a lot of variations because, instead of the raisins, I put blueberries in or raspberries in. Most recently, we did an orange cranberry, which was nice with a lot of orange zest and orange juice. So this is a basic recipe that has 5 different variations that we'll share with you. And the variation that I'll do today is the blueberry variation. So the base starts with 2 cups of rolled oats and 1 cup of oat flour. And I've explained before, I never buy flour anymore. I just make my own because all I have to do is put it in the Vitamix. So I'll make up several cups at a time, and then I freeze it because I don't use flour a lot. So I freeze it, and that's how I have my flour just on spur of the moment without actually buying something at the store, which has been sitting on the shelf and sitting in the distributor's warehouse and all that. So this is a lot fresher and cheaper and easier. Cup of rolled oat flour, a teaspoon of cinnamon. I always like cinnamon, and it is a fabulous antioxidant. I love the taste, and it's a great medicinal supplement, you might say. And then I do a 1/2 cup of chopped almonds. That's a nice base, and that gives it the oil. Typically you have some butter or you have some fat in the cookie. So this is the whole food form of oil that gives it a richness that I think is really nice as a base. Okay, so I want to mix all that together so that it's uniform. And then I'm going to put some of the wet ingredients on there. So, what I should say first is at the very beginning of the recipe, I make the flax egg. So for those of you who aren't familiar with a flax egg, it's basically 1 part ground flaxseed to 3 parts water. I've made 2 flax eggs here. So 2 tablespoons of ground flax and 6 tablespoons of water. And check this out. I mean, tell me that isn't just like an egg, You can see the binding quality that it has. And instead of an egg with cholesterol and fat and all that stuff, full of omega-3s. This is really good stuff. Okay, so you want to do that first because it takes 10 or 15 minutes for it to get jelly like that. So the first thing you do to make the flax eggs, then gather all of your ingredients together, start mixing, because this is going to go in at the end. Okay, so I've mixed all of the dry ingredients together. Now I'm going to add some of the wet ingredients. So I've got 3/4 of a cup of applesauce. And sometimes I don't have applesauce. If I don't have applesauce and don't want to take the time to make it, then what I'll do is I'll grate an apple. So it can either be 3/4 of a cup of applesauce or 1 apple grated. I've got a 1/2 cup of date paste. So this has replaced what I used to do. Originally it was brown rice syrup, and then it went to maple syrup and stevia, and now it's date paste as we keep getting more and more into the whole food form sweeteners. And I do a quarter teaspoon of liquid stevia. We like the sweet drops, vanilla cream. And a quarter of a teaspoon is 3 of these droppers. And that's our sweetener. Okay, now I'm going to mix all of that stuff together. That's our start for the base of this cookie. So now, what's interesting too is you can do this just as an oatmeal cookie. This is a great cookie just the way it is, like this. So I would mix this in if I wanted just the cookie, and then I would add the flax egg, and I'd be ready to go. But I'm going to do the blueberry variation today. And what we do with the blueberry variation is that I add a ripe banana, a mashed ripe banana with the blueberries too. That seems to give it a little more body, a little more hold together quality, and it just adds some additional flavor and texture to the base. It's the only one of the variations that uses a ripe banana. Okay, so I've got all that mixed together.
That looks great.
Yeah, it is good. I'm going to add the rest of this. So this is my mashed banana. Oop, you can see it gets dark when it oxidizes. I did this ahead of time. So there's my mashed banana. Roll that out. Never want to waste a drop. Use that. And there is egg. Really, really fascinating, isn't it? So one thing about flax eggs is if you add more than 2 flax eggs to a baked recipe, sometimes it can get a little odd. So 2 is kind of the max that I usually use for flax eggs in a recipe. I'll mix that in, and then I'll fold in my blueberries, and we'll be ready to go into the oven. And now it's getting gooey. That's looking like a cookie. So, no water. Flax egg, adds some moisture that's needed. Some of the recipes do add a little more water, like the orange cranberry. There's a couple of tablespoons of water added at the end. Now we'll put our blueberries in there.
How many blueberries was
Oh,
that?
that's a cup.
A cup?
A cup of blueberries. Let's fold those in. So you can use fresh or frozen. I use the frozen, and I like to add them while they're still quite frozen, so they're quite solid. You can let them thaw, but they get a little squishy when they're thawed. So when I do this with thawed blueberries, this turns really, really blue because there's all of the juice that comes out of the blueberries as they thaw. And yeah, it's just a kind of a little different cookie than when it's with the fresh or the frozen. So that's what it looks like. Now, I used to take the time to make a bunch of cookies. 2 reasons I don't do that very often anymore. One is the time it takes to make a bunch of cookies, instead of just dropping it all into this baking dish. And the other reason is that it takes 2 cookie sheets to get them all on, which means I have to use my great big oven. So I end up heating my great big oven to cook these cookies in. Whereas if I put it in the 8x8, I can put it in my little toaster oven. And I like that better. So what I do is I bake these into just one solid dish, and then I cut them into little pieces that are about 2 inches by 2 inches. So it's about the size of a cookie. That's usually what we have around here. And just about there. I love the simplicity of using the toaster oven because it takes no time to warm up. I don't even have to preheat it. So this makes life very quick and easy. I can't feel probably gonna do it. It's looking pretty good.
Beautiful.
Great.
And then how do you cut it when it comes out?
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I cut it into about 2" by 2" squares, which means I cut it into quarters. So I go down the middle and then quarter, down the middle and then quarter. But you can do it in squares, you know, if you want to have it like it's like a breakfast square. I just cut it in quarters, and I used to do that lots of times. I'm not eating as much grain at breakfast now, so I'll take one of these little 2" by 2" and kind of crumble it in my breakfast, and that's my breakfast square now.